Good evening, everyone. Welcome, and we are very pleased to have you for our final Pitch Club of 2021. Each year, we like to finish our Pitch Club series featuring companies that have previously pitched or are part of the original AngelMD portfolio companies. This is an opportunity for these companies to share their progress and their successes since their last presentation, or just update to the network community. Tonight, we have 5 incredible companies that will be presenting, so it will be fast-paced, but an informative and interesting night of medical innovation. Sorry, I'm just going to pause for a second and see if we can avoid the echo. Okay. I would like to take a quick step back, though, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, and tell you a little bit about AngelMD. AngelMD is an expert network of primarily physicians, dentists, and startups, but also investors in industry focused on accelerating innovation in healthcare. We aim to give physicians access to early-stage companies and empower them to have a voice in medical innovation, and in turn, give the startups access to their primary customers so that they can build a company that will meet or exceed the needs of their customer and in turn succeed as they go to market. If you aren't already a member, we encourage you to join and find more ways that you can be involved in driving healthcare innovation. So a few quick details about tonight. After each presentation, we will have moderated Q&A. So please put your questions in the Q&A section. Even if you don't have a question, you can read the other questions, and if you really like them, you can actually boost them to give them priority for us to try to select the upvoted questions first, because we don't always get a chance to get through all of them. Following the presentations and Q&A, we will move into our networking event. All of the companies that are presenting tonight, as well as our 2 Pitch Club extension companies, will have a table. So Scalamed and Bexion Pharmaceuticals are the 2 Pitch Club extension companies. If you have additional questions for any of these companies, or if you had the opportunity to review the Pitch Club extension videos beforehand, or you just want to learn about those companies, please join their tables and you'll have plenty of time to talk with them. We also have a new feature that AngelMD just launched, where our attendees can actually create your own table. So if you want to talk about a topic, or you're a startup that would like to have other people come and visit you, you can certainly create your own table. So with that, I would like to turn things over to Dr. Katie Richardson, our VP of Clinical Relations, who will MC the event.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. Welcome, everyone, and happy holidays. We appreciate all of you joining us tonight. I know it's a very busy season. There's a lot going on, but hopefully, again, this next hour and a half is going to be filled with some exciting updates, not only from our portfolio companies, but many of our previous Pitch Club alums, and I think you're really going to like it. So without further ado, I am going to get started with our first presenter. We have Jamie Haggard, and he is the CEO and founder of Green Sun Medical, which again is one of our AngelMD portfolio companies. And Jamie, while you introduce yourself, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get your slides pulled up.
Yeah, I'll make sure that's doing good. Hello, my name is Jamie Haggard. I'm based out of actually Fort Collins, Colorado, and we were one of the first AngelMD companies to receive a syndicate investment. My name is Jamie Haggard. Like I said, we have a company, Green Sun Medical. We're initially starting out focusing on adolescents with scoliosis, but as you'll see, we're adding other patients too. Go ahead and go to the next. We started the company back in 2015 and assembled a world-class team of surgeon thought leaders in scoliosis treatment. Our whole idea was that instead of fusing these young kids, we wanted to create a dynamic brace to provide continuous pressure, just like you would with orthodontics or with kids with club feet. You'll see in the slides, they get progressive casts in order to correct their deformity. So we were able to get this whole team of great surgeons on board, and we started working through a series of prototypes. We're now, the whole idea was to apply continuous pressure. Kids for the last 50 years since the Boston brace came out have been given a rigid plastic corset. And if you can imagine having a 12-year-old girl, there we go. We can just probably do it like that. Yeah, there we go. So these young 12-year-old girls, they're diagnosed with scoliosis, and their scoliosis is not just a curve; it's also a rotation, as you can see on the left picture there. So go to the next one. And so the standard of care is once these kids develop a curve, they're observed, then they get bracing, which is a rigid plastic corset that they're told to wear 20 hours a day. And if bracing fails, they end up with an average 10 level spinal fusion. It costs over $150,000. And it's the second leading hospital charge for adolescents. It's second only to appendicitis in the US. Go ahead and go to the next. And so the standard of care is a Boston brace. It was developed same year as Atari Pong, 1972. Go ahead. And I talked about this. We want to apply continuous pressure. The body responds to low pressure over time, whether it's in orthodontics or with club feet. And so what we've developed is the Whisper brace. We make a custom brace for each of these kids based on standard modular parts, and it's assembled and designed based on a 3D scan of their torso that's mated with their x-rays. With this brace, they have much more comfort. Their quality of life is much improved. They can move. It's much more breathable. The temperature is lower, and they can eat. The brace is adjustable, so they don't just outgrow it in a few months if they go through a growth spurt. And most importantly, we're applying continuous corrective pressure to these kids. Go ahead. So like this young lady, I wish we had the video on it, but we don't. You can see it on our website, greensunmedical.com. But all of these kids, when they first put on the Whisper brace, they all do this kind of whisper wiggle. They kind of move around and look like weeble wobbles because they're so happy that they can finally use their core muscles. We also added a connectivity portion to this. So we wanted to be able to measure patient outcomes. We also wanted to give them feedback. So these kids now became empowered in their own care, and they were able to see how many hours a day they were wearing their brace. We're also able to collect that and show that to insurance companies and other providers. As far as adults, this young lady is in Orange County, California, and she has significant back pain when she's standing. She doesn't have any laying down or sitting, but she can barely walk because her head is not aligned over her pelvis. She wears our brace about 8 hours a day, and she has significant pain relief, and it even lasts when she's not wearing it. She showers at night, and she says she no longer has pain in the shower every evening because there's a residual effect from the brace. We've got the connected wearable therapy. So we're tracking compliance with the brace, but we've received our second National Science Foundation grant. We've received $1.25 million now from them. We've enabled embedded pressure sensor system into the pad, so we can actually track how much pressure we're putting on the patients and see and we take that reading as it matches with their x-rays to make sure that we're providing the proper amount of pressure and taking a reading off of that, and then we can follow it and make sure we're continually applying that much pressure. If it starts to go down, we can bring the kids in just like you would with orthodontics and increase the pressure. We've started a biomechanical validation study at several leading hospitals, Children's Hospital Los Angeles, Shriner System. We've had 23 patients complete the 3-month study. Most kids in regular braces are only about 30 to 40% compliant, and we've seen kids that we're up over 90% compliant with kids wearing our brace. A home run for a brace. Oops, can you go back one? A home run for right now for treatment is if a young lady has a 25-degree curve and at skeletal maturity, she still has a 25-degree curve and it didn't get worse, that's a home run. We've actually seen some grand slams in our study where patients have had 25-degree curves on their x-ray out of brace, and after 3 months wearing our brace, it was down below 6 degrees. Go to the next one. We've got a world-class team. Most of these surgeons are design team leaders for spinal implants at companies like Synthes, Medtronic, and Stryker. Yet all of them have joined us to help keep these kids out of surgery. And the next. We've got a great team that all of us have at least 15 to 30 years of experience in medical devices, and especially most of this is in spine. Our opportunity right now is we have a $4 million preferred equity round. We only have 800,000 left on it. We were led by a strategic orthopedic company, and it has a 12.5 million pre-money valuation. We're using the funds for a full partnership and or commercialization. We're developing a hybrid sales team. We're creating this sensor intelligence platform with the NSF funds. And then we're also increasing our inventory production and bringing on board a contract manufacturer. We're also putting funds towards direct-to-consumer marketing. We have a world-class website that Facebook groups for scoliosis now refer to our website so families can learn about how to treat their children. We've won many awards, including the biggest one in MedTech for startups, the MedTech Innovator. We won the grand prize. We've also received a grant from J&J to use their J-Labs. We have some serious potential partners for acquisitions. We do have an investment banker engaged and is in negotiations for that. And if at the end of the day, it's about the quality of life, and if you can imagine a world where these young ladies are prevented from having their spines get worse, and also those seniors who have horrible spines, if we can reduce their pain and increase their quality of life so they can get back to the things that they'll enjoy, then we'll be successful.
Great. Thanks, Jamie. Sorry. Glad we made it through the technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Sounds like you guys have made a lot of progress since the initial investment, which is super exciting. There's a couple of questions from our audience. And before we get to that, I would love to hear a little bit more about your clinical pilots that you're doing. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So getting the surgeon team together, we want to see what do you guys want to see, and what are you going to need to tell all your colleagues to use this brace? And they said, well, we want to see comparison x-rays. So the kids have to be in a rigid Boston style brace for at least 5 months, and we take an out of brace x-ray. So, okay, out of brace, they have a 35-degree curve, let's say. They wear our brace, and in brace, it's down to 20 degrees. They have to wear our brace for a week, and then we take an in-brace x-ray. As long as we are matching or beating that in-brace x-ray, then they're cleared to wear it for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, we take an out-of-brace x-ray and compare them to make sure they're doing okay. And then also we measure their compliance.
Great. And do you have any early data you can share with us?
Yeah,
How long are these
we're seeing
going?
We've had it going since the beginning of 2020. We've had some COVID issues, as you can imagine, on some things, but some sites like Shriners in St. Louis had their kids come back for the 3 months in like May last year when everything was crazy. They stopped all their other clinical studies, but continued with us because they saw these early results with our kids. So we've been very successful with that. We're trying to get 35 patients in it. We've had some logistical challenges with surgeons moving to different. We've had 3 sites where surgeons have moved who are primary investigators, and so we're getting our other sites up to speed and doing that. It was nothing with our brace, but they selfishly took better jobs at other places. So we're
that sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
a question from our audience: are the forces only coronal, and how does it then affect the sagittal plane?
Right. So no, they're not. So there's 2 dimensions on the brace. So scoliosis is a rotation and a curve. So you can apply pressure above and below and then laterally and help straighten a curve. You also have to derotate. And if you see I can even show it maybe on the back of the brace, the spring systems on the back, we can push and pull. And so if you see this one, the rings aren't aligned, they're actually twisted. So we're applying derotational forces to the spine as well.
Fantastic. So I know you presented a little bit about your exit opportunities, but there's a question from the audience on, so what is this brace going to sell for? And then what's your competition look like?
So first question is $6,000 for the brace, which there's 2 main types of braces. There's Boston braces, probably got 80% market share. There is some custom braces called a Rigo Chanel, and those get priced $5,000 to $10,000. So we're in the range of the higher end custom braces. And sorry, what was the second question?
Was about your competition.
Yeah, so the competition is like literally Boston brace and surgery. Right. So it is. And if you can imagine these 12-year-old kids, they are not happy about wearing a rigid plastic corset, even if it's a newer style custom one. When we give them that movement, it's just night and day difference.
So one last question from our audience. How do you make the braces look cool and reduce the stigma for the brace wearers? What is?
Yeah,
go ahead.
well, we focus a lot on patient compliance and what was keeping kids away from, why weren't they wearing their brace? We have a kind of a really soft fabric garment that they wear underneath it for comfort that folds over it. So it pretty much covers it, and they just wear a t-shirt over it. We also did many other things. We learned one of the main reasons they don't wear it to school is just because they used to have Velcro buckles. We have a little magnetic buckle that we thought was really cool and it works really great. The kids love it because it's quiet. And the biggest reason they don't wear a brace to school was gym class. And everybody hears them rip these big Velcro straps and comes around the corner and says, "What are you doing?" What we did is we came up with these very quiet braces buckles. And then the whole brace has a hinge system. So they can easily pop it off, and then they can pop it off. And then with the hinges, it flattens out and they can fit it in most lockers.
Oh, very cool.
So
and I'm
that's
assuming
part of the stigma is keeping it hidden. And also, if you're in a rigid brace, you kind of stand out because Frankenstein. With ours, you can move like a normal kid.
I'm imagining then they can put it on themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
that
awesome.
Doesn't always happen with other braces. They're having to have someone help them in the restroom and things like that. Yeah. It's all about the user experience for us.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Jamie. I'm sure there will be other questions during our networking time, but this is really exciting. And as a pediatrician who has patients with scoliosis, this seems like a great advancement. So thank you again for what you're doing, and thanks for being here tonight.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much for letting me present.
Our next presenter.
What am I here to amuse you? I'm a joker here to amuse you?
You are.
All right. Very good.
Our next presenter of the evening is Liz Dickinson, and she is the CEO and founder of a company called Relish Life. And we first had Relish Life on AngelMD Pitch Club for our telemedicine event because we thought, there's got to be a lot of things that used to be done face-to-face that now are being done through telemedicine, and weight loss happens to be one of those things. So Liz, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Katie. Really appreciate that. Just by way of introduction, I actually am a serial entrepreneur, and I'm probably known to some of you in the audience actually because I invented the Mio strapless heart rate monitored watch. Many cardiologists did use it and recommended it to their patients. It was actually a device that kicked off the wearable industry. We ended up having our products sold all over the world in all Apple stores. We licensed our tech to Garmin and to Adidas, to TomTom, and then eventually Adidas decided they wanted the company. So that's what happened to the Mio, in case anybody's ever interested. I have a very passionate interest in fitness and wellness, which kind of drove my sort of enterprise in getting into the wearable industry for health. But I really, felt that when COVID hit and I my own self found myself gaining so much weight in just like an astronomically short time, I realized that we were looking at some sort of a societal systemic problem related to stress that was emerging. And when telemedicine all of a sudden mushroomed and all of a sudden it became possible to service large populations democratically using telemedicine, I thought, what a great application for telemedicine. Like we could finally do something in the medical weight loss space. So I had this idea. And I went actually to AngelMD with just an idea. Katie reminded me when we chatted the other day. She said, "You didn't even have a website." I said, "That's true." So I was just emboldened by my previous successes, the fact that I had put together just an absolutely kick-ass founding team and a kick-ass board of directors. And I came to AngelMD and I presented just like 1 year ago. And we were really fortunate. We got tremendous feedback from this group. So happy. We got investment from this group, and it really gave us the money that we needed. We closed the round at the end of the year last year. and gave us the money that we needed to further explore if indeed we had a viable product. So we built an MVP very quickly, and that MVP allowed us to do a bit of a pilot. And the pilot was a 6-month pilot. We had 12 participants in the pilot, and I'm just going to pull up the results of the pilot here. So either I need a new computer or the network is very slow. Anyway, the pilot was 12 people. We did 6 months, and we saw an average weight loss of 14.1 pounds, 4.4 pounds a month, and 10% average weight loss, which is consistent actually with clinical studies that were done for some of the medications. But I just want to compare that to, for example, what Livongo was seeing. Livongo had about 5% weight loss, 7% on average, people that were very, very engaged. Livongo actually sold to Teladoc for $18 billion. So we're actually seeing essentially twice that kind of result. But what I think is actually even more compelling than the results of the pilot is the feedback that we're getting from our clients and patients. So really, it's not just that they're losing weight, they're actually experiencing their lives in a completely different way. So what Relish is we are actually the world's first and still the only integrated weight loss company. We're offering direct-to-consumer weight loss, and it's by subscription, but the way that we tackle weight is quite different than anything out there. So we're using a biopsychosocial approach to weight loss. So we're pulling together best-in-class weight loss medications. We're pulling together clinical psychology, which we deliver through counseling and weekly group therapy sessions. And we're also offering health coaching. And so we're basically tackling the problem holistically. I think one of the problems that we see, and the reason that the statistics for weight loss are so abysmal, 95% of people gain the weight back, is because the root cause of the problem is never addressed. Even if you prescribe weight loss medications, you're not really getting to the issue of why somebody gained weight in the first place. Dr. Vincent Folletti, who is one of our founding advisors, whom many of you may know, he actually did the research with Kaiser and the CDC on something called the adverse childhood experiences. And if anybody is from California, any medical practitioners from California in this audience, you know that Nadine Burke-Harris is doing a major push in California to teach primary care physicians on how to screen for what's called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And they've now trained over 20,000 doctors in how to train for adverse childhood experiences. There's a whole bunch of science around how toxic stress alters the developing brain, which causes all sorts of addictive responses. I can't spend tons of time on it, but it is so fascinating. And the problem is rampant. You would think that this is isolated, marginalized community, low income. This is something that happens everywhere. And it is actually underpinning some of the major causes and disease states facing our society today. I encourage you to watch the TED Talk by Nadine Burke-Harris. It's absolutely fantastic. Anyway,
I would agree with you.
Good. So we felt that we got significant success from our pilot, which gave us the kind of success, the confidence to keep going. And that's when we decided in May to do a soft launch of our product. And now we are experimenting, with how we deliver a best-in-class customer experience using, we now have 40 customers. We're taking in customers gradually so we can optimize that experience. In a direct-to-consumer healthcare business, one of the real keys to success is optimizing the consumer experience. And so we're spending big bucks on that. And one of our first hires, actually, our first major hire, was an award-winning MIT product designer who's our VP of product. So we're really focusing on that UX customer experience. And we're also inviting all doctors that are watching, or any doctors that may be interested, to join our program for free. We are offering Relish for free to any medical practitioner, and we want medical practitioners to feel comfortable about what a great program this is, how incredibly helpful it is. We found that, a majority of doctors don't feel comfortable treating weight issues. They want somewhere credible to send their clients, and
that's Relish Life. I'm
exactly.
going to just move on to some of our questions because I think they're awesome. And Liz, you hit the nail on the head here at the very end with, I think most primary care physicians don't get enough training. And one of the things that you all are doing is really incorporating the most up-to-date guidelines with relation to weight loss, leveraging medication, leveraging psychology, leveraging, I know you're building in, again, probably with your MIT grad, some automated check-ins and other delivery of great information for patients. And I agree. I told Liz I'm going to sign up because I would love to see what it's all about. Big passion of mine. But I want to hear a little bit more about, what do you think your target demographic is?
Well, we're starting with women between the ages of 35 and 60. A lot of women go through life with chronic depression that's undiagnosed, and it shows up as eating, compulsive eating, secret eating, eating to stuff emotions, and we feel that it's a demographic that we can really help. I mean, you can hear a lot of women say, "Oh, I'm going through menopause now. That's why I'm gaining weight." And they're sort of writing it off on hormonal stuff, but there's lots of clinical evidence now to show that your metabolism actually doesn't slow down in your 40s, and it in fact doesn't slow down until you sort of hit your 60s, and then only maybe 1 or 2%. So we're blaming all this stuff on slowing metabolisms, and there's so many other factors. There's stress, there's career issues.
I was going to say, I think hugely stress plays a big role, and we look at, well, I would say what today's women in that age range are dealing with. And I think we have our answer. A couple more questions from our audience, because I actually love one of these questions, several of them, but talk about how Relish is different or better than Noom, because Noom has gotten a lot of publicity and they're out there doing really well. So what do you provide that Noom doesn't?
Well, the first thing is we are a medical approach. So we actually prescribe medications. We have doctors and nurse practitioners that assess the clients and assess their histories, their medical histories, and then we prescribe FDA-approved medications. But it's not enough just to prescribe medications. We also have a complete program of clinical psychology. Like Noom has behavioral modification tips and techniques that they serve through an app. We actually delve into clinical psychology, guided imagery, hypnotherapy, CBT, things that really help people get to their own best answers, deal with issues on self-esteem, deal with issues around addiction, and really surface some of those really underlying root causes of why people gain weight.
Fantastic. I'm going to quickly go to one last question. There are others on here, but we're a little behind on our time. But I really love this question. What was your biggest learning from MEO, and how have you integrated that into your current endeavor?
My biggest learning was never, ever do a hardware product. And so my biggest learning is that I'm not doing hardware anymore.
All right. Well, there you go. Straight from her mouth. You're going to have to wait till the networking time to ask more questions about that. But Liz, thank you so much for being here. Again, congratulations with your successes in Relish Life. I'm excited to try it out. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to learn more about it, especially being a primary care physician, because if we know one thing, lifestyle diseases are really what is taking over with most of our patients. And so
Yeah.
being able to help them lose the weight and hopefully prevent some of those, I think would be a great option. So thank you again for being here tonight.
Thank you. And we welcome men into the program. I don't want people to feel that men aren't welcome.
Of course. All right. We're going to move on to our next two companies, actually, and we have a video that we're going to share. So Dr. Jim West, who is the CEO and founder of Clara Biotech, and Dr. Evan Nadler, who is the CEO and founder of Adipomics. We taped this early because Jim is on a plane tonight. And so we're going to show a brief video, and then Evan is here to answer some of your questions. And we'll also have someone from Clara Biotech during the networking time to be able to answer questions about that company as well. All right, moving on to Dr. Stephen Pierce, who recently presented with us on AngelMD Pitch Club. He is the CEO and founder of EM Tensor. We're excited to hear, Stephen, about your update and look forward, because I know there's been a lot that's happened even since you were just on Pitch Club.
Okay, yep, we've got a screen. All right, cool. So Tensor, we're in the business of accelerating brain injury treatment. And you see a little device there. That's the predecessor to the product device, but it's the one that we can use for prototyping. And you know, as you see there, it's actually measuring the brain of one of our staff members. And the important thing about a brain imaging device of this type is if we can make it portable, like this one, it's a bioelectromagnetic tomographer, then it can be used pre-ambulance, it can be used in the ER, it can be used to monitor patients in the stroke ICU. And it's a distinctly different modality from MRI and CT. So it doesn't use any ionizing radiation. It is inherently safe. It's a thousandth of the power of a cell phone, so it's not a problem. And really the change on this one, Katie, that you might have noticed is that little patient adaptation blue region there now is got a prototypical design. So it's designed to basically allow any size of head in the adult, actually even in kids, to go into this device, and it basically squeezes out the air between their head and the device. And it's a flexible membrane that contains a liquid that's the same relative permittivity as brain tissue. So you notice that there's a little thicker area at the top. Well, that's for if you have larger heads go in there, it bulges out a little bit more. That's how that works. But fundamentally, we can detect hemorrhage and ischemia. And I figured I'd give you an update of things that we accomplished in 2021 as the next thing. So clinical trial-wise, we published our clinical trial at ESOC 2021 in September. The paper had 100% sensitivity, 97% specificity, and detected hemorrhages down to 0.13 milliliters. So it's about 500 times better than the competition. And as you might imagine, that created a fair amount of physician excitement. We're up to, I think, more than 30 now key opinion leaders that are aware of our technology and are actually becoming quite engaged as well. We reduced a significant number of major design risks, even actually since the last time we presented, Kate. So you'll see on the next page that most of the plastics and metals are fabricated. We have new lightweight hardware that's been brought up, so it works now. We have this thing called a matching material, which is a key component of the design that actually has a mold. We can build it. We have a recipe, a process, so it's a part that we can make repeatably. And we've also achieved this thing called phase alignment, which, interestingly enough, is one of the key enablers that allow us to use it as just a simple device. You take the person's head, you introduce it to the hole that you saw in the device, you hit the button, and away you go. If we didn't have phase alignment, we wouldn't be able to do that. And then the last thing is the patient adaptation that I just talked about, that little blue area that's made out of a liquid. So all of those things are now got actual solutions to them. They didn't actually have quite the solutions to them the last time we spoke, so quite a lot of been achieved there. We also discovered, as part of our concept engineering activity, that we can validate our usability. So we designed away from the cart that places the machine at the head of the bed that so many other bedside machines that are very, very heavy are forced into, and we now are able to put it on the bed on a little tray and slide it forward and use it in the hospital quite easily. We also identified the top 6 medical claims from a total of 20 that we think are reimbursable. And we actually went out to physicians and engaged them and got them to give us some feedback, and we were able to prioritize 6 of them. It's very, very clear that there's a top 6. So hemorrhagic exclusion we already studied is one, ischemic versus hemorrhagic stroke is another, large vessel occlusion versus small vessel occlusion is another. TBI is really is there blood in the brain or not? So it's kind of another hemorrhagic exclusion, but a different use case. And one of the things that we learned as we were challenged by people who said, well, hang on a second, it can't possibly be that good, is that the reason they were saying that is that if we compare ourselves to CT, which is part of the standard of care for ischemic strokes, to basically say there's definitely no hemorrhage in there, so we're not going to hurt anybody, then the dual physician read achieves about an 80% sensitivity on that 0.13 milliliter hemorrhage that we talked about in our trial. Then we managed to achieve 100% sensitivity on. So we are significantly better than the CTs that is in the standard of care for that very specific purpose today in most parts of the world. So pretty major achievement. And we didn't even know that that was the case until we presented the data and the physician told us this was the answer. So then on the FDA and reimbursement strategy, we have a 510K predicate-based draft volume. We're readying for submission. We're just doing a little bit of phantom studies to support it with performance data. We also completed a reimbursement report using an external entity, and they told us all about how we could actually easily slip into a hospital under existing CPT codes and existing pots of money that help with diagnostics. And even then, over time, actually improve upon that. They actually also identified that the primary target is Medicare. Turns out that 60% of ongoing stroke care falls into the Medicare account. Actually, 60% of even the initial stroke care falls into the Medicare account. Most of the ongoing cost falls to Medicare as well. So they should be quite kind of proactive in figuring out how to avoid 100 million people that are disabled in the world right now that we could potentially remove by stopping them from having strokes over the next 10 years or so. So that's the accomplishments in 2021. Here's a few more. What you have, I don't know whether you can see my mouse, but in the top left, you have some of the metalwork that is used to build the exoskeleton of the system. The key component is this 4 antenna module down in the bottom left. Then you have all the plastic that goes around the system to build it up. In the top right, you have the matching material plug, which is, think of it as almost like a rubber tire, because that's kind of what it is, only it's a very special rubber tire with a very specific recipe. There's a black version of that liquid-filled insert that goes inside the rubber tire that's right there as well, just to the left of it. And then the bottom right has the circular control board, the processing board, and then a few of the individual RFPCB modules ready to be built up. Would you believe we would be at this point in time showing you a picture of a working system were it not for the supply chain problem that we're experiencing with electronic components in the global market? And it fundamentally comes down to, there's about 27,000 parts in a system, down from about 70,000 a year ago. And there's about 35 of them that we literally can't get hold of unless we pay 100 or 1,000 times the usual street price, or we wait the what's called the infinite time period of 27 months in the global supply chain. So we're hoping to secure enough components to be able to build up 4 systems. That's why you see parts enough for 4 systems in that middle picture. Okay, so we're pretty well along, but unfortunately we can't show you a working device right now. Then the highlights for 2022, lots of activity on clinical trials. We have 1,000 patient plus trial that we're looking at negotiating in Kazan in Russia that would cover all of those 6 top reimbursable claims, and that's for product development. We have Linz, Austria, that will continue with the existing trial and probably add another 75 patients. Then Kiel, Germany is in negotiation, but really that's just a question of just finalize the clinical investigation plan. They've been ready to go for the longest time, and they can field hundreds of patients because they're a very large stroke center there. And then recently, even today, we now have, I think, three U.S. hospitals that are interested in doing a clinical trial with us. Memphis, Tennessee, San Francisco, actually Sutter Health, and there's an Atlanta hospital as well that's interested. And every single one of those is actually operating a mobile stroke unit. So kind of key that we go into their ER, because we can track mobile stroke unit patients as well as ordinary ER patients and the ones that go through their stroke ICU. So,
Stephen, I'm going to just stop you right there, because I think we could spend a lot of time on 2022. This is all super exciting. We have some great questions from our audience, though. One of which is, once you have 510 clearance, what does your go-to-market look like, and how do hospitals or other entities adopt your equipment? What is that going to look like?
So in parallel with the 510K submission, we are also creating the background material to convince clinicians to buy our device. And it would be primarily used by stroke ICUs as a monitoring device to prevent people from, there's quite a high mortality rate after treatment in a stroke ICU. So that's the first application. And we would expect small numbers of almost research type people to be buying an individual device at that point in time. That'll build a breadth of literature that would then justify the move to ER. And we're doing ER clinical trials in parallel with even those monitoring trials. That's why we're picking those US hospitals, so they can do all three places. And then once we have a justification for why you would want it in the ER, which is to accelerate patients through stroke treatment or to reflect them back home because they don't need stroke treatment, then we'll potentially move it to ambulance applications, where it really has the potential
in the field
to change the world. Because if you can use it like an EKG, in fact, a physician, an ER doc was talking about using it exactly that way, then they were operating 2 mobile stroke units right now, and they flat out said, there's no way that's going to take over the world, because you could never afford to spend $5 million on every ambulance. But every ambulance does have an EKG, does have an AED, and they have those for a reason, because they can save enough people that it's worthwhile for every ambulance to have them. Well, our price point is in that same ballpark for that kind of scenario. So that's where we move to. So it'll take a while, but we build our clinical proof in parallel with our FDA approval, and then we roll it out to the 4 applications that we've identified already. Each of those, by the way, is about a $5 to $10 billion market all by itself.
Yeah, very exciting. So, logistical question.
Yeah.
How long does it take to get the images? How fast is it? And then, have you seen or how, I'm assuming that the system can take this into consideration, but there are many patients with hemorrhage that may be moving around and may be a little bit agitated. So how does it account for those types of things?
Okay, so part of the answer to the second question is the answer to the first question.
Perfect.
It takes 0.4 of a second to do the data acquisition for a full 3D study. So if they're moving around a lot, it really doesn't affect us. It's not that big of a deal. Then, and by the way, we compensate for that move around as well. We basically take their brain and whatever angle it was in there in the machine at, we just symmetrize it and present it to the physician as if it was, pristine MRI presentation. That kind of thing is something that's done by the tech in the MRI typically. It takes a little bit of time. So it 0.4 of a second to acquire. It's about 2 minutes to process to get the image back, but you get the full study. You can get 100 slices if you want, and you can get a full 3D DICOM presentation. It's basically ready to go. The other big advantage that actually we only learned was a huge advantage just recently is if you have 1,000 slice CT and you have a physician that has to look through that, he flat out tells you he doesn't look at all the slices.
No.
Do a great job.
Well, they can't, because I'm guessing.
They haven't got the time, because they got maybe at max 20 minutes. Now, in our case, we have such a huge contrast for hemorrhage or ischemia that we literally will build a little software agent that says, okay, take them directly to the worst case slice, because it's the one with the most red.
Sure.
One with the most, right? And they go, well, that'll save me 20 minutes right there. In fact,
that's fantastic.
Like,
even the read, I mean, really gets to treatment so much sooner.
Exactly.
I'm going to have to move us on so we can watch our last presenters. But Stephen, thank you for being here. I know there are some additional fantastic questions in Q&A. So those of you that have those questions, you're going to have to stick around for networking. And every time I hear you present, I have more questions in my head. This is really exciting technology, and congratulations on all your successes.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, we're going to move on to our video. I think we have ready to go. So again, Dr. James West, who's CEO and founder of Clara Biotech, and Dr. Evan Nadler, who is CEO and founder of Adipomics. I'm here today with Jim West of Clara Biotech and Evan Nadler of Adipomics. These two gentlemen presented at our Biotech Lab Pitch Club event in August of this year.
I'm Jim West, CEO of Clara Biotech. And at Clara Biotech, we have an exciting revolutionary platform for the purification and isolation of exosomes. Exosomes are like the FedEx communication system of the body. They're made by all cells, and they have trace materials to the cells that make them, which allows us to look at where the exosomes originated from to do liquid biopsy, diagnostic, and prognostic type applications. And this is a really emerging and fast-growing area where we have some really differentiated technology in how to get these at a very high quality and high purity. I'm happy to say that we've just announced we've closed our seed round. We're just laser focused and all hands on deck on getting our first exosome isolation kit to market that can be used by any one in our 3 target customer segments, which includes academic researchers, diagnostic developers, and therapeutic manufacturers.
Tell us a little bit about Adipomics and what's happened to you since you presented on Pitch Club.
So my name's Evan Nadler, surgeon scientist at Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C., and co-founder and CEO of Adipomics. And we are an adipocyte exosome-based company. So you guys can sort of see the parallel here between what Jim is doing at Clara and what we're doing at Adipomics. Our company has based its science around how adipose tissue and obesity mediates disease at end organs around the body, and specifically how exosomes take the genetic material from adipocytes to these distant organs. Our first diagnostic arena is based on gestational diabetes, and we have found a specific microRNA signature within adipocyte-derived exosomes. We can predict those who are going to get gestational diabetes in their 3rd trimester using first trimester samples and analyzing the adipocyte exosomes. When I presented at Pitch Club, we were using third trimester samples, but we've now repeated it with first trimester samples and actually get an even better signal and a better prediction than the 3rd trimester samples. Since that pitch, we've been able to connect with a group that is interested in helping us with our clinical testing and potentially funding, which a group that I met via Pitch Club and in the breakout room at the end of the session. We've now enlisted the help of Clara to try to make this as seamless a process for the test sites where they would have Clara's exosome isolation product on site and then use our microRNA signature for gestational diabetes.
Well, that's really exciting. As a result of Pitch Club, 2 startups coming together to work on a project that clearly is going to benefit patients. Jim, talk to us a little bit more about how this came about and how Clara will be involved.
People like Evan are the exact people we're looking to meet. You know, he's got a neat technology. He's got a validated or a validating biomarker. And what he's trying to do is build a test that can be used in the clinic to help people. And that's who we're looking for, because what we can do is really get him access to the signal he's looking for in a simple, high quality, repeatable way that can be used in any laboratory, which is a huge challenge today with exosomes. And really it's thanks to Michael and the folks at AngelMD who saw these pitches kind of close together and they're like, hey, these guys should be talking. And so it's been a fantastic experience, and it's the first of many, and it's a really a neat way where two early stage companies can really support and leverage each other as we're moving our products to market.
Right now, the standard of care for pregnant mom is to get an oral glucose tolerance test at about 28 weeks gestation. What that sort of paradigm has always lacked is that the fetus is subject to the developing mom, in the first trimester when the organs are being put together. The quality of the exosomes that Jim and his team can get for us will be really important in our ability to get a pure signal that really can be used to replace the standard of care.
What we'd be able to do is within a sample that Evan's talking about, you've got lots of, exosomes, but also lots of non-exosomal content, and they're all nanoparticles. And so the more you have, the more masked your signal is. What he's really looking for is needles in a haystack. He's looking for really specific targets that are hard to identify when you have a lot of, screaming kids in the nursery and you're looking for yours. Our technology is able to really isolate those exosomes of interest and give them a really clear, simple signal to do their tests around.
Jim and Evan, thank you both for being here and providing updates about this exciting partnership. All right. If you have any questions for Evan and Adipomics, please put those in the Q&A. We also have a representative, Tom, here tonight from Clara Biotech, who will be in the networking lounge. One question that I have, Evan, for you is, tell me one thing. I mean, this study is going to be huge. That's probably going to take a lot of your time in 2022. What else are you looking forward to?
Oh, thanks, Katie, for having us. I guess one thing I'm looking forward to is the fact that I have a better shirt on today than I did during that video. That was just kind of a schlumpy little shirt that I was wearing during the day. But, so what our company is doing is, although we're focused on gestational diabetes now, what we really have found is a signature for sick fat in general, which can be applied to a multitude of different diseases, any obesity-mediated disease, really. So we'll be expanding our trials, hopefully, to include things like the obvious ones like type 2 diabetes, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, other cardiovascular disease like atherosclerosis. But we also intend to use these particles to actually package material, so as a drug delivery or a gene delivery system. So those are all things that we have in the works, but we're super excited to be partnering with Clara and Jim to get our first trial going, as soon as we feasibly can. And we do owe that to AngelMD. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. We enjoyed having both of you on Pitch Club. And because of the time, I am going to wrap us up here tonight so we can move on to our networking lounge. Again, Evan will be there as well as all of our speakers from tonight. And we look forward to asking more questions, because the reality is we have a lot of exciting companies that have been part of Pitch Club over the past year. And I think I speak for myself and Mike that we have really enjoyed getting to know all of these startups, these startup founders. And you come away with a sense of pride, because there are a lot of companies that are doing really, really well. And so it's been fun to get these updates and to share some of those with you all here tonight. So without further ado, I want to say thank you to you all for joining us this evening. As always, we will send out a wrap up. Actually, it'll go out this evening. It'll have all the videos of our presenters, as well as links to their AngelMD profiles, and that will give you information on how to connect with them. We also have a Pitch Club website where all the videos are put, as well as our YouTube channel. So again, many opportunities to see these videos and learn more about these companies. I hope that all of you will join us in our networking lounge to continue the conversation. And please bring your favorite beverage with you because it's one of the most fun parts of the evening, I think, is to engage not only with other audience members, but also with our speakers to continue the conversation.
And
so
as Evan mentioned, he actually got business done when he was here on.
See, in the networking lounge.
Right,
Yes,
exactly.
You're right. Happy holidays, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the networking lounge.